I'm your host, Locum23. You're joining me for Star Trek Picard Episode 2. And we're going to go with a rapid fire review, as I'm assuming you've already seen Episode 1. Let's go ahead and jump into this. First couple scenes are us actually seeing the synthetics for the first time, officially, what they officially are. And it was what we all feared, or at least those who had watched Star Trek The Next Generation and seen Data and his fear, their fight for Data being a life form and someone who wasn't supposed to be mass-produced, and Bruce Maddox losing, things like that. This had happened. A lot of these synthetics, when the door opened, were identical. So they conversed with the humans, and they on a Data to his daughter intellectual scale, it was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't as sophisticated as Data. It didn't have a real sense of humor or a sarcastic like get you, like, what'd you do last night? Oh, nothing. Oh, okay, I got it. It's a mood. So and then it was like something flipped a switch. I want to quickly remind people that that wasn't far-fetched. Everybody's saying it's far-fetched. Oh my god, how did they hack the synthetics and everything? Does no one remember the episode? There's actually a couple episodes, but this one specific one, where Noonien Soon, throughout time and space, sent the signal to both Data and Lore that it flipped a switch, it turned off who they were, their main mission was get to the planet that Soon was on, and they were willing to lock out the ship. And this was just Data, by the way. He locked out the ship, he, denied access to the whole entire bridge crew, like, he caused, I think it was some leak or something on the bridge, that everybody evacuated to the engineering section or the lower part of the ship. He took control of the bridge and was able to get to the planet. They were still locked out even while Data was on the planet. Once Data teleported down, Noonien, then shut him off, reset him, and made the brain block away, so where it was Data and who, what, when, where, and why he really was, and he was back to old Data versus being the controlled, android. So this isn't far-fetched. It seemed like a flip of a switch in this guy's head, and all of a sudden it was, and he started operating like Data, taking control of the relay that they were in, and everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And then there was a woo, woo, and, corruption of the synthetic, and everyone's like, oh my god, what's going on? This one guy tried to go and stop him. He's just like Data. Just knocks him across the thing. This woman she gets this big thing that could probably damage him or knock him out, and then he grabs his weapon, and he just turns with android-like precision, just two security personnel walk through the door, immediately down, and then the whole Utopia Planation thing happens, and then people are like, some of my compatriots, I'll constantly refer to them, is on YouTube, the reviewers, who I have respect for, but you have some massive differences in opinion for this show, as well as the fact that you have a huge hate boner for Kurtzman, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm judging each and everything, and he has a history of successful TV shows under his belt versus the movies. So this isn't a movie. This is pacing. This is TV shows. This is something that he is comfortable with versus the movies. Also figuring the fact that I don't think Patrick Stewart, with his name literally being on this, him being the main character in this, and his name, Picard, being on this, is literally and figuratively going to let anyone destroy his legacy and who, what, where he is. This isn't Luke Skywalker drinking milk out of a thing, out of an animal, and just no. This is, you can see, while he's got older, there are things that we'll get to in a second that are very much Picard. And then it's also, he's aged 20 years, he's got, as you change, as you get older, you change, your ideals change. And I think people need to realize that. Trust me, hit me up in 20 years. If you can, but hit me up in 20 years. And I guarantee you, you'll change. I promise you. I've changed a lot myself. With that being said, the two housekeepers that we were wondering who, what, when, and why, maybe they were just housekeepers, they're revealed to be Tal Shiar agents in this episode, which is kind of cool. And it kind of gives more of a respect. It kind of shows, man, Picard earned two Tal Shiar agents to take care of him, to be companions, I guess, in a way. And they are protecting Picard too. He you know, goes to go out, and the woman's upset, and she's like, you know what? I don't want you to die. She goes, so take him with you. She goes, because I don't want to see it or whatnot. And this guy's a Telshar agent, and Picard just looks at him and goes, no. And then they started having dialogue about how he should get Riker, Troy, Worf, you know, Geordi, and all these other things. And he goes, no. And I get it. Like, he'll visit them. I'm sure he'll, you know, run into them, and reminisce, which we've already seen in the trailers. But I know his reason why. And he even said it. He says, they would do anything for me out of respect, out of undying loyalty. But I don't want to lose them. And I get it. They're probably all off living their lives. It's been 2 decades. Riker, from what I've seen in the trailers, as well as a few others, are retired or doing their own things, living their lives. And most likely, Picard is going to die. This is also very importantly brought in, and a lot of people need to look at it this way. As a person who is fighting their own health battles, and it's a losing battle, but it is a health battle, is Picard is very old. Let's be real. Patrick Stewart, the actor behind Picard, is very old. Picard is not going to be around, and it saddens the hell out of me. I hope he is. I hope he outlives me. It's going to break my heart if that man dies before me. That man is a father to me. Really, he was the only real male role model I had throughout most of my teen years, childhood years, as well as a man. And he's kind of, in a way, what I've molded myself to be, as at least the best I could. On top of other people and things that I've picked up throughout time and space, etc. But this was talked about long ago, where it was in, I believe, a different timeline or a different scenario, where he had this disease where his mind was going and everything else. It was during the Q thing, I believe, on one of the episodes of The Next Generation. And this doctor, which they had the technology. He ran for the screening for this disease, and at the time they said that he didn't have it, but they would have to screen him in the future. However, they talk in this episode that he might have some sort of syndrome, that the symptoms can be treated and whatnot, but the end prognosis is still the same. You're going to die. And no joke. I mean, the guy is old. He's going to die regardless. He is old. But he is also healthy. I mean, he's very healthy. Patrick Stewart in himself is very healthy for his age, but you can go at any time. Myself, I'm healthy per se, but your body just has flaws. You're born with those flaws, or you develop those flaws, or whatnot. The body is a very finicky thing, as well as the mind. So keep that in mind. So we've already developed in this episode the prognosis that most likely Picard will die. He will either die from the series and the events that unfold, or he will die peacefully at the end of the episode with, here's your prognosis, and he goes back to his chateau and becomes the hermit. They refer to him literally as a hermit in this episode, but he goes back to his chateau and dies with his caretakers, if they're still alive. Who knows? But at least he'll be surrounded by his friends, his family, and whatnot. He'll be mourned by the people that care. So with that being said, this is kind of like one last hurrah. This isn't Firefly. Everybody keeps calling it goddamn Firefly, and it's not, because Firefly was completely different. That was a captain of a ship who went around robbing people, giving to the poor at times, helping those misfortunate, but mostly robbing from corporations and things like that. And then, having kind of like a moral compass, but then, this is completely different. This is someone who literally was, one of the biggest people in the thing, and this is a person who's still going for the morals of what the Federation is. He even stood up in front of this admiral as he asked for a ship, and he wanted to just have one more mission, he said. Just one more. And he told her just flat out what it was. And I was going to make this a rapid-fire review, and there's so much to break down in this, as well as go back and forth and compare and theories and things like that. Oh my god. I love Star Trek. So, long story short, the two caretakers are Tel Shiar agents. They are protecting him. They talk about how the Tel Shiar is the mask. The one caretaker, the female one, beams in with, I'm gonna call her Miss Garrett. Miss Garrett beams in with Picard into Dahj's home, which everyone's like, oh my god, how can that even happen? They could just beam whenever they want. I mean, they literally have sidewalks with doors that teleport you places. Yeah? Why is this a thing? Why is this a big deal? Like, this is literally Star Trek. Like, beaming technology, it's nothing new. They've modernized it. They've made it as easy as walking into my closet and teleporting to Starfleet Academy. That was a thing literally and figuratively when Wesley Crusher went to the Academy. It was like you literally would walk through a door and there's a teleporter. There was no engineering bay and doing the things and the commands and everything else. It was just pre-designated teleportation pods to who, what, when, where, and why, and where. Like, where are you going to go? Go to this pod for there, go to this pod. Why do people make such a big deal? It's like they don't even remember watching Star Trek, and they've lost all track of mine, and that's why I like my brain, because I remember all those details and intricate things and the whole nine yards. I just love it. So, they teleport in, they use this technology, or it was a Romulan device that was supposed to recreate the most recent scenes. And so they didn't know what they were going in for. And so Picard, if you watch him, he had this, that's very unreliable. That was banned in the Federation. And she's like, well, we wanted you to think it was unreliable. So clearly she's Tel Shiar. She knows how to work it versus other people who may not. And the Federation isn't the most brightest thing in the world. That's why they have pools and pools of people from different, whatnot. And maybe she knows things that normal people wouldn't know and how to specifically operate. I'm sure Section 31 or someone deep in the Federation knows how to do it. But, long story short, if you were to allow this crime scene, detection net thing that you just beam into a place, okay, well, he killed her with that, and okay, case solved. Imagine that. Well, shit, the Federation, Section 31, the Tel Shiar, everyone else would never get to commit, some of the things it does. So, of course, there, in a way, is a secret implication that Starfleet itself has this technology covered up. But, we'll get to this here in a minute. They beam in there, they have the last scene, but it's broken. It was them sitting together, he gets up, he walks into the kitchen, and then everything starts getting corrupted and freezes. And it's like, oh, they released a bunch of, it was like La Poudines or something. It was a new phrase. It was a new kind of like technology that was jamming this recreation thing. And they're like, okay, so they've basically everything was copacetic and cool and everything. Okay, so they were a sweeper team. They went in here and they wanted to make sure that there was no ill will to be found. And so Picard and everybody does the science shit, because this isn't Star Wars, people. This is Star Trek. It was always technology and science and using your brain and who, what, when, where, and why. What can we do? So they sat down and they're like, okay, maybe it was her twin and the communication and everything else. And finally they were able to find it because Picard stated that the computers that the Federation had would, with time, for me, if I would go, kind of like, well, we have it now. What is it? Corona or whatever on Windows. We got Siri. We've got all this crap now, voice commands. And as you do it more and more and more, the AI, the programs learn and to anticipate, and it just becomes more ease. Well, the sister had activated it, the twin sister, by the way, and the computer had caught it and logged it, but it had already gone through, but it caught it and logged it, because it's like, you're a little bit different somehow, some way, and you're also off planet. So It was like, so the sweeper team didn't catch that particular little clue. And that really is, what this episode was all about, is clues and detectiveness and things like that. So moving on to the sister. She apparently is on a Borg cube. They're calling it the artifact because something happened to this cube that cut off the cube, and there are hibernated Borgs, or ones that are kind of like, you remember Star Trek, they kind of would run into walls or something, or things, basically ones that aren't connected to the Borg hive mind anymore. So what happened, according to this, is the Borg had cut the connection with the Borg cube because something happened. And this Borg cube was heavily damaged from what you can see. It was heavily damaged. So the Romulans have made this kind of like a base of operations for them freeing the Borg, as well as researching and developing the technology, implementing it, using it, basically R&D. And they've got a bunch of scientists on here, but a bunch of guards as well. And so the sister apparently is sleeping with the head honcho for this base that's also a spy. So he's double agenting. So he's not supposed to be the researcher, but he is the researcher, and he's spying for this hidden agency that's behind the Tal Shiar, this hidden mystical thing. They use the Tal Shiar as a mask. So that was very interesting. And so apparently they're sleeping together. You can tell he's kind of developing feelings, and he's going about his own way. Apparently he has a sister who's working on Starfleet that's working under an admiral. However, she's being conniving and whatnot herself. And it's more of a friendship than anything. And yes, the admiral is working against Picard. However, there was the one admiral that Picard went to ask for a ship, to ask for one last mission, and he put all of his cards on the table. He was very honest with her, and even told her about his theories and everything else, Bruce Maddox, the synthetics, like the fact that a piece of data is still out there, and that this is big and huge, and we owe it to Data. He gave his heart, his soul, his everything to Starfleet, and he did. And so Picard wants to honor his friend because his friend, Data, gave his life for Picard. She just is very angry. And everyone's like, why is the Admiral so angry? For all these other, like I said, reviewers. And because I will go watch a couple that they were right about Star Wars, but they are wrong about this because it just seems very lackluster. When they're talking about this, because there's more than just a hate boner for Kurtzman in Star Trek. But moving on, they're like, why is the Admiral so angry? This doesn't make any sense. Picard went on national TV, disavowed Starfleet, said Starfleet isn't what Starfleet should be anymore. He was pro-Romulan versus being pro-Starfleet because he wanted to save 900 million lives. Like, what did they have to lose besides they had everything to gain by helping out the Romulans? 900 million people. Saving those people would have showed and bridged that gap that Spock, Picard, his father, everyone else tried to bridge with the Vulcans. That look, the universe, the galaxy is not such a bad, scary place. And yes, your home is being destroyed, but people will come and help. Even Spock himself risked everything, including his life, to go and help the Romulans. And he had nothing to lose, but everything to gain. So, with that being said, people don't get that. And it kind of speaks on your personal character when you don't get that. If right now you told me a piece of information that I could go and save one life, let alone 900 lives, at the risk and cost of my own, I would do it. Hands down, I would do it. I wouldn't hesitate. I would do it. Like, it speaks to the actions, as well as my common decency, humanity, and whatnot, of the kind of person I am. So, let alone what I've already done for others and literally save people. So I literally can die right now knowing that I've made a difference in several people's lives and keeping them alive. I can die happy right now. Even though I don't want to die right now, but I do. I can be like, you know what? I did something most people can only dream of. With that being said, there is a lot to break down in this. From again, the episode was very paced. So he's trying to get some sort of information, or maybe have her flip on her double agent, or find out maybe who made her, or find out who's behind the scenes of this synthetic, which you don't even know if she's been activated to know, which it seems like a very passive activization. So here's how I look at this. Imagine for a moment you're born into this world and you're given memories of a childhood, and this was done. This actually was done, but we'll skip that breakdown because right now this is rambling and I want to cut this short. Imagine you're born into this world and you're given memories of your childhood and whatnot. It's kind of like Data. He was given the memories from everybody in the colony, but he never was a child. He never got the experience of a human upbringing. This is where I look at this, and there's a lot of questions behind the scenes. Are these genetically altered human being bodies with a neural net put in them, or a literal neural brain put in them? Is this, are they given the immersion that they are human, that they had childhoods, that they had all this, and that they were put out here? Because there was one interesting thing about how Dahj had applied to the Daystrom Institute and everything else, and she was going to become some prominent scientist with Bruce Maddox and everything. And they literally pointed out that everything about her, there was no records, even though she was approved and everything else, because there was the illusion. It's kind of like saying, look, I worked at Harvard, and you've got a fake diploma. And people were like, oh, cool, well, we'll hire you. And then no one really does any back searching, and then when you actually do some back searching, it's like, they have no record of you being at Harvard ever. With that being said, that was Dahj. So, was she given the illusion? Was she born in a certain time and mentally, again, we're dealing with the brain. We're dealing with putting memories in there. The human mind itself can be convinced of things being real when they aren't. Is it that far-fetched for technology to be the same and to be given a holographic matrix in your brain that says you lived 20 years of your life when you just woke up? I mean, is it that far-fetched? That's why I love Star Trek. It makes you question these things. It makes you wonder. And so far, my questions from episode 1 and things like that are starting to pay off. Like I said, there was this other secret agency. I didn't think it was the Tal Shiar. Lo and behold, I was right. I said it was something like Section 31. Lo and behold, I was right. So far, my predictions are all panning out. So for episode 3, something tells me. So Picard basically is shut down by Starfleet, the whole nine yards. He goes and meets this woman, Raffi. Who he puts on his old Starfleet pin and says, hey, it's me, Picard, please don't hang up. I really need your help. And then he goes out there in a taxi. It doesn't teleport. It's a taxi, which was very interesting. And it really doesn't make or break the episode. I'm sure some people will tear that apart, but like, why did he beam? Maybe there's some areas you can't beam to, or maybe he didn't want a record of his beaming to her, and he wanted just a taxi. Who knows? Who cares? What that makes sense. So he goes out there, and he brings just a bottle of his finest wine. And she goes, just get away. And he goes, okay, I won't tell you something interesting, like the Romulans having a secret thing in the blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and she's just asked the year of the bottle, and he just turns around with a smirk, like. And then, pan, end of episode. and then they gave the preview for the next episode. And he's looking for a crew, he's looking for a ship, and you can tell the captain of the ship literally looks at him. And it's not a Starfleet ship. It's a ragtag band of probably mercenaries, which this isn't the first time this has happened in Starfleet. And this won't be the last one. But everyone keeps going back to Firefly. Even though this happened long before Firefly was even in existence. That mercenary things and hopping on ships and the whole 9 yards. This goes back to literally when Kirk hopped on a Klingon ship. Let alone all this other shit. Just shut up, people. Wow, some of these reviewers are irking me. And the captain looks at Picard in the preview for the next episode, and he goes, "Where are we? You know, I've been told you don't even know where we're going." And he goes, "You know, it's basically a mystery. It's one that's begging to be solved and unraveled, and the whole nine." And that's literally what this is. Is as Picard and his people are going, these breadcrumbs are happening in time and space and things like that, and they're clues. And then the more he speaks to people, the more clues he gets. And it's a detective. It's literally like Star Trek or Sherlock in space. Like, we have Doctor Who and all this other crap. Why are people so quick to hate this? I'm loving this. But the saddest part of this episode was the fact that Picard is dying. And that really sucks, because it brings us to that mortal coil. So for me as a gamer, I shared something on Twitter. A lot of people didn't like it. And by like, I mean there was no real likes on it. But it was something about how you as a child, you play games. And you as a teen, you play games. And you think the ultimate boss is in that game. And you as an adult, you go and you beat that game. You beat that boss. And there's so many games where you've beat. But the ultimate boss itself is time. A boss you can never beat. A boss where finally time runs out, and behind your eyelids, it is game over. Some of us, it happens sooner than later. For Picard, aka Patrick Stewart, he's an old man. This will be his last journey. And he has one last mission. I'm going to respect it. I'm going to give this show a chance, because again, I don't believe they can go as wrong as people are just naysaying from the get-go. I look at Kurtzman's Twitter, and there's just people who you can see come from other Twitter people's handles and whatnot that are followers of these naysayers, and the end of Star Trek is nigh, and they're standing there with the signs. And, oh, Kurtzman's gonna be the death of this, and oh my god. Here's the thing is, Voyager was the death of Star Trek, Discovery was the prequel, and literally, like, there was nothing going forward. No one was doing Star Trek books, no one was doing movies, no one was doing anything to bring the future of Star Trek to where it should be, besides Star Trek Online. Which, are any of you playing? Probably not. So shut the hell up. Like, long story short, give this a chance. It's not like, what else are you doing with your lives besides sitting on YouTube complaining? But give this a chance. Give it criticism. If you're gonna sit there and complain, don't just complain and complain and complain, because I don't want to watch you. I want to hear criticism. If something is bad, give it criticism. How can you fix it? How can you tweak it? How can you make this more appealing? Or maybe think outside the box. Think back to episodes. Think back to movies. Try and make a connection for your audience. You are an influencer. And I'm going to say this, and then we're done. You are an influencer. You influence people. You influence people to play games. You influence people not. You influence people to watch shows and movies and whatnot. And you influence people to not. For me, unless something is very distasteful, very bad, very whatever, I am not going to... I'm going to give my opinion, and I'm going to influence you to make your own bloody decision. Unless something is horrifically bad. And then I'm going to literally encourage you and force you, i.e. the Warcraft review, which I guess I'll put right here in a box in a minute. Don't buy that. I even got a refund myself. So don't do that. As a content creator, no. Don't do that to yourself. Save your $30, $40. So, I'm an influencer. These people are influencers. Influence their minds. Above all, don't just sit there and complain and harp and be a negative Nancy. I get it. That's the popular thing to do in this world. That's why I live in the Star Trek utopia in my mind. And if anything, I ask life for all the good things that I've done. If you could let me die while in a dream, just a peaceful dream, just a peaceful way to go. That's all I ask. Is that one way to go. Because I have what Picard has, where you have these dreams, and they are far better, and just far more substantial than real life. When I wake up, it is crappy. I look at this world, I look at the people in it. I can honestly say, this will be the only really negative thing I say, is I'm losing faith in humanity most days. Or have lost it. However, there are people in my community, probably you watching, especially at the end of this video, who give me faith in humanity each and every day. Thank you. Without further ado, you know what to do at the end of this video. Unless you're brand new to YouTube, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Without further ado, let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this review. Have you watched Picard? Have you not? Are you just relying on my reviews? You're like, I can't pay for CBS All Access and I don't have Amazon Prime. So at least your breakdowns are giving me some clue to what the hell's going on. And who knows? Maybe I'll convince you to watch it. It's worth the watch so far. But I would say, if you're on the fence, then hold on. Wait till half the season or the whole season. And then sit down, especially with a 7-day CBS all-free access pass, cough, and just binge watch it. Because something tells me that this journey that we'll be taking on is well worth it. It's well worth it. So, thank you all for watching. Catch you on the next video. Peace out.